Hi guys, so today's topic is none other than scaling. Okay, this is more comfortable to look at, right? Alright, so in today's video, I'm going to address something that I feel that a lot of times we did not properly address in our science syllabus. But a lot of times in science, we are talking about the really huge things, we talk about abstract things, but seldom do we put everything together to identify what is the largest of the largest and what is the smallest of the smallest. So that is what we're going to be addressing in this video. Let's get started! At the largest of the largest of what we know right now is the universe. And what is the universe made up of? It's made up of numerous galaxies. So where are we in the scale of a galaxy? Well, each of these stars that you see at the galaxy can represent different stars and solar systems that will make up this galaxy. And that's where we are. We are this tiny little speck within one galaxy. And this is how our solar system looks like. As you can see from here, Earth is just one of the planets that's orbiting around the Sun. And do you know that the Sun is actually just a star? It is actually pretty amazing why we can survive on Earth, because it must have the correct composition of atmosphere for us to survive, as well as the correct temperature in order to sustain life. That is why a lot of people used to deliberate whether there is life out there in the universe, which now that you know the scale of things, what do you think? Now imagine that we are pinch zooming in, right? Okay, so let's zoom in into Earth itself and where are we situated on Earth. So while we can be on different countries, when we look at a particular place, then we can bring in this topic on ecology. So when we examine a particular location, there will be the physical conditions known as the abiotic factors, as well as the living things that are inhabited at that location. So we have this interaction between the physical and the biological factors that populates that place, and we call that an ecosystem. So when we zoom in into the biological portion of it, we can see that there will be a community of different organisms living together. And that's where we bring in the new term, community, which is basically made up of numerous different populations of organisms. Now, what is the meaning of this term population? It just means a group of organisms of the same species. With that said, let's zoom in further now into each individual. And in this case, let's examine deeper into a human being. What is a human being made up of? So we are made up of different organ systems. For example, the digestive system, the skeletal system, the muscular systems, and many more, the nervous system, etc. So organ systems will then make up an organism. For complex organisms like us, or what we call as eukaryotes or multicellular organisms. Now let's move one step deeper. What makes up an organ system is none other than organs. So in the digestive system, we have organs such as the stomach, the small intestines, etc. And what makes up these organs will be tissues, which is basically made up of cells. And at this point in time, cells are what we call as the basic building blocks of life. In other words, at that cellular level, we can still consider something as living. That's why we have single cell organisms, which are made up of a single cell. Since cells are the basic building blocks of life, then there shouldn't be anything that is smaller than a cell. Is that right? Oh no, we can still zoom in further into a cell. Zooming deeper into a cell, and we will realize that it's actually made up of organelles, different components, which includes the nucleus, for example, the endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, and even the cell membrane. These are different components that makes up the cell. So are we at the smallest that we can go? In fact, not. These organelles are made up of molecules. For example, there are four main types of biomolecules, which are your carbohydrates, your proteins, your lipids or your fats, and genetic materials. Going deeper, then what makes up all of these different molecules? Some of you might have the answer. A molecule is basically two or more atoms chemically combined together, right? So what forms these molecules are actually atoms. And you probably heard that all metals are made up of atoms. And different atoms can combine and interact with each other to make all the metals that we find around us. How many different types of atoms are there? There are as many as what you will see on the periodic table. In other words, the elements. Of course, there are other variations to each element known as isotopes, but we will not discuss on that in this video. Now that we are at the atomic level, can we go even deeper than that? And the answer is yes. Atoms are made up of subatomic particles, which includes protons. Atoms are made up of subatomic particles. Hold on a second. Oh, special guest number 2. Hello, say hello. Okay, I'm filming something. Okay. Later I update you, okay?
A few moments later.
Atoms are made up of subatomic particles, which includes protons, neutrons, and electrons. And at this point in time, we will be telling ourselves like, hey, I don't think we can go any smaller than that, right? In fact, we can't even really see how a proton, an electron, or a neutron looks like based on our current technology. So can we go even smaller than that? Interestingly, the answer is yes. How do we find out about that? While we cannot really see them, the concept of finding the smaller pieces that makes up these subatomic particles is pretty simple and very interesting. You might have heard of the particle accelerator or the hadron collider. What is happening over there is that they accelerate these particles at very high speed and let them collide into each other. And the simple concept is this: when two objects collide, it will usually fracture at the part where it is the weakest and breaking it up further into its components. And lo and behold, we found that there are these things that makes up the subatomic particles known as quarks. And that's about how far we have progressed as of now. Can there be things that quarks are made up of? Very possibly so. And what's the point of going to this extent of learning things that are so small or learning things that are so huge where we don't really need them in our daily life, right? What happened if I were to tell you that metals only made up of about 5% of the universe, where the rest of it is actually made up of dark energy and dark matter, which are things that we cannot really detect and things that we don't really understand. So by understanding what makes up our world that we see here will help us come up with better understanding about the things that makes up the world beyond what we see. So with that said, we have covered from the grander scale of things, which is at the universe level, to the smallest things that we have understanding as of now, which are the quarks. So as a quick recap, let's zoom in and zoom out on this scale together one more time. So from the universe, it is made up of numerous galaxies, and our solar system is just one of the members in a single galaxy. Our solar system is made up of the Sun and the other planets, and our planet is ranked third, known as the Earth. The Earth has different ecosystem which is formed where the biological and the physical factors interact with each other. We can zoom in further into the biological portion, which is the community, and the community is formed by numerous different populations of organisms. What's a population? A population is one that is made up of numerous organisms of the same species. Zooming in into the organism, we know that each organism, if it is a multicellular one, is made up of different organ system. Each organ system is made up of organs. Organs are made up of tissues, and tissues are made up of cells, which are made up of organelles, and organelles are made up of biomolecules. Molecules are made up of atoms. Atoms consist of subatomic particles, which are your protons, neutrons, electrons. These particles are made up of quarks, and there we are, from the universe to the level of the quarks. Hope that this video brought you certain perspective, and the next time when your science teacher mentions something about, for example, the cells versus the atoms, you know which is bigger and to what extent is it bigger, and that will help you visualize and help you appreciate what is being mentioned. Drop in the comments below if this video is helpful. Subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a like if you think that this is an interesting thing, though I'm not sure if I have made it interesting or scary. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care and bye!